Welcome to the Unbottled Podcast, the show where each week we go behind the label of dietary supplement manufacturing. I'm your host, Mark Bryant, the Giant. Behind the scenes, we've got Stephanie and Danny.
Hello.
Yo.
Today we're going to talk about Let me try that again. Take 3. Today we're going to talk about what is an MOQ and how does it affect my product pricing.
But before we get started, Mark, we do have a question from a viewer. Is there a database of manufacturers that you would recommend?
A database. There are, but you have to kind of pay to play on some of those. So like ThomasNet or Keychain, they have manufacturers, but you typically have to have pay a registration fee or something to have access to those. The best way really is Google. Typically the ones that you're going to find on the first page are ones that have invested time and effort into providing good quality content to get them to that page 1 on Google. So if they're putting content out, that's probably a good sign that they're a pretty solid manufacturer. So to me, that's a cheap and easy way of being able to find, but be very specific in your search. You can also, with AI nowadays, ChatGPT, Claude, all those guys, you can be very specific in there and they will print you up a list really nicely. So, so the answer is yes and maybe.
If you're just starting your supplement brand, you will realize rather quickly that a manufacturer is very interested in your target MOQ. But what is an MOQ? What does MOQ mean? And why is it so important? The MOQ number is often the single biggest factor in whether a brand can even afford to launch. So, Mark.
Yes.
What is an MOQ?
Okay, an MOQ is the minimum order quantity that a manufacturer is typically willing to run on a certain product. So it's the smallest batch size that they're willing to do.
What is the difference between a minimum order quantity, an MOQ, and a minimum order value? And do manufacturers take both of those into
consideration?
Yeah.
I think so. I mean, there is a difference. I think it used to be that manufacturers would kind of play both sides of that fence, a lot of them, but now I think it's more unit driven and here's the price. We tell people all the time, we will go lower than what our normal MOQ is. You just may not like the price. There's so many fixed costs in manufacturing. Those don't change, right? Like to clean a room is the same labor costs and all the things that you have to use to sanitize and do every room. And at every phase of manufacturing, there's a opportunity to clean a room. So you weigh it out, that's one room, and then you got to sanitize and clean the entire room to avoid cross-contamination. Then it goes into blending, and you got to blend that, and then you got to tear it all down and clean it, and then you got to go into encapsulation. Then you got to do that. You got to, like every phase has that. And those numbers don't change. It costs the same almost for every single room to do all the things. The labor costs, all those are the same.
Yeah.
So say it costs, I'm making up a number here. Say it costs 1,000 labor dollars to go through all the phases of cleaning. Well, if you only order 1,000 bottles, then that's $1 a bottle for cleaning. And,
Just for cleaning.
Right.
Not
But if
the
you order
ingredients.
but if you order 5,000 bottles, now it's 20 cents. So you just, by increasing the number of units, now you've just decreased because that number is just going to be the same. And that's how we divide it up. I think if I'm going to answer the other part of your question is the value. We tell people we'll quote them less. They just may not like the price, right? And as long as they're comfortable knowing that, then yeah, you don't have to get 5,000 units or whatever that number is. You can just get 500 units. Then it's like, now we're dividing that $1,000 across 500. So now it's $2 a bottle for those cleaning costs, you know? So it just depends on what their comfort level is. If you're budget shopping, that may be fine. You may be fine knowing that on the first order, I just want 500 units and I'm going to be okay with that, even if I'm losing money every time I'm just trying to test the market. Like if somebody came to you and said, I've got $5,000 and I want it, how many units can I get? I need to make this much. So they reverse engineer how they price their product. Like they're going into a cognition formula and they say the market shows that I can charge like $30 a bottle and that's going to be a good price. And then they're like, I know I need to make this much and I know it's going to cost this much to advertise and I know it's going to do this. And then they come back to you and they're like, I can spend $3 a bottle.
I would love it if people came to us and said, my budget is $5,000. Can you make my product? And then we can take that and look at their formula and say, no way, because the cost of your ingredients alone is going to be prohibitive here. What can you tell us about why there is a minimum order quantity that a manufacturer will set?
There's so many reasons to like take into consideration here. It's really kind of a tricky question because it depends. A lot of manufacturers keep what I will just for our purposes call core ingredients in-house. So vitamin B1, 2, 3, B6, all the different ones. Like you just put them all in there and those should be like ones that most manufacturers are keeping on hand and they're readily accessible. But then nobody wants to just throw out a typical product that just has the basics in it because there's already a million products like that on the market. So if you've got a couple of what we call hero ingredients, these are the ones you're really going to market and they're really unique, then you probably need to find a manufacturer. That may be one of your first questions if you're wanting a low MOQ and you've got this random rare ingredient that you're going to use, right? Is to say, hey, do you have experience with this material? And the reason for that is because if you're wanting a low MOQ, you want a manufacturer that probably already has experience with that material and they have it in-house that you can pull from. If you go to a manufacturer that doesn't normally carry that, they're not making a product that currently has that in it, then you're subject to the MOQ of the raw material supplier now, not the manufacturer. So if it only needs 50 milligrams of that ingredient in the product and you make 1,000 bottles and say it only uses 5 kilos of that material, but the manufacturer's MOQ with the raw material supplier is 25, there's 20 kilos sitting out there that didn't get used in manufacturing. And most manufacturers aren't going to carry that bag, right? They're going to go back and they're going to charge you, the customer, for it. A good manufacturer will charge you, but they'll also earmark it. They'll keep it in their inventory. And when you're ready to reorder, that material's already paid for. And so your next price on your reorder should be less, right? Because you've already paid for that material and they should deduct that from the price of the product.
We have one customer that they order a bottle that requires screen printing on the bottle directly.
Correct.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah. And those MOQs
are higher.
Are really high. They order,
yeah.
How many bottles do they have to order?
I don't know. Quite a few.
Yeah.
Usually they won't do those for less than like 10,000 units. Again, they'll do them, but you're just going to hate the price.
Yeah.
Like, it's just going to be double what you would think. It also means you don't have to fill all the bottles. It's kind of like you don't have to use all the raw materials, right? So if you go through and had to order 10,000 bottles just to meet the packaging manufacturer's MOQ for a screen printed bottle, doesn't mean you have to fill them all, right?
Right.
You just sit on them in inventory. Again, a good manufacturer will sit on those in their inventory for you. You may get charged like $25 a month for a pallet space or something like that because that adds up. But there's a lot of MOQs out there that the manufacturer is subject to make your product.
What is tiered pricing?
So tiered pricing would be the more you order, the less it costs. And that's a good thing to talk about right out of the gate with your manufacturer is if you're only starting with 500 to 1,000 bottles and you've got a manufacturer that's willing to do that, I'm guessing that the goal is to not just stay at that level forever as a business, right? You want to be ordering 5, 10, 25,000 units at a time. So it's good to ask that manufacturer, hey, it's not today, but 6 months from now when I'm slaying this thing, like what is my price then? Right? So if I'm ordering 10,000 units, what does that look like? And then you can kind of build based on that, knowing that I get really profitable at this quantity from the manufacturer. On the lower end, I think most want to break even. That's the hope, is to break even or just not lose much, but you kind of do lose some money actually at the lower MOQ. And you just got to kind of be comfortable with that for a while, knowing that the payday comes when you start moving some volume, and then it really comes. So it's good to get that price so you know when you're ordering those where you'll be.
Last week, you had a really great explanation in there about...
Did I?
Yes, it was awesome. About tiered pricing. And so anyway, I'll make if you're on our blog, I'll try to link to that from here. If you aren't on the blog, go listen to last week's podcast because it was really great explanation.
Well, you're too kind.
Can a manufacturer change their MOQ? And when would you consider doing lower MOQs as a manufacturer?
Great question. The simpler the product, the more likely a manufacturer is to go low. Meaning if you came in and just said you wanted ginkgo biloba, 250 milligrams, that's it. some excipients in there, done. That's a lot easier to digest. It's a fairly common ingredient. You're just buying one. The blending, all the testing, all those things aren't going to be as bad. So you probably would be okay doing that, single ingredient, 2 ingredients, 3 ingredients. But if you show up and you want a multivitamin that has 40 plus ingredients and you want 500 bottles, the testing costs on that alone are going to be $5,000.
Yes.
And so there's $5 a bottle, or $10 if you only got 500 of those, right? So again, that's a huge difference. So yeah, you can probably sell it to a manufacturer at a lower MOQ with a simpler product, but if it gets complicated, that your MOQ actually goes up.
I've gone to their website. I've seen that their MOQ for a powdered product is 5,000 units. Should they even reach out to that manufacturer?
Of course, there's always exceptions. We talked about this, I think, a little bit in the last episode, where it's like the brand that shows up with all their ducks in a row, and there's a lot of thought put into it. They've already got some branding to share with you, all that stuff. You're like, oh, they've really put some thought into this, and it gets a manufacturer excited as well, right? So if they say a certain number, you might be able to tease them into something less. You just got to be open to what they have to say and hope for the best. A lot of the reason why there's MOQs involved in pricing is because we want to be able to make a product for a brand that is going to be competitively priced, so that when they put it on the market, there's a higher likelihood that they'll be successful. So if we know that making 250,000 capsules is the magic number to get all those fixed costs diluted over the right number of bottles, that's where we want you to be too. So it's not like you're losing money out of the gate as a brand. We can say, oh, this is going to be competitively priced. They're going to feel good about it. They get more spend on market and advertising, and it really helps, right? The manufacturer seems to like that as well. So
what are some other manufacturing risks that startups have that maybe companies that aren't startups and that are really established don't have?
So just make sure I understand. You're asking what risks a startup has versus an existing brand?
Yes.
Everything. You don't have anything there's no history, there's no proven track record. Everything's a gamble when you're first starting out. Whereas an existing brand, at least you kind of know your cadence of, hey, we sell 2,000 bottles a month or a week or whatever that number is, and you just keep trucking along.
Startups a lot of times will come to us and
risky.
Want a test batch.
Yeah.
What is a test batch, and what is that versus a regular run for a manufacturer?
Yeah.
And
so
do we do test batches? Small pilot runs.
Yeah. Again, this goes back to we'll do it for you. You just aren't going to like the price. So 2 kinds of test batches. There's the kind that you're going to actually try to get in some consumers' hands, and that's different than if you're just going to try to see if the product is effective and give it to a couple of friends to try and get their feedback. Usually the latter is, you're giving it to some friends and they'll give you some constructive criticism.
This tastes disgusting.
Yeah, oh, that's awful. And you're like, oh man. A test batch is for testing, and it's not meant for market. Does that make some sense? So you're going to give it to people. We're going to make a little sample in the lab. It's for flavoring purposes. They're going to test it. They're going to try it. They're going to give you your feedback. It's not to go and sell. We've had people reach out and they want to test the market and versus test it for other things. If you're wanting to just try to see if your product is effective, we always recommend, and we're not afraid to say it, go to bulk supplements. They sell stuff in super low MOQs, and buy a little scale and play Breaking Bad in your kitchen. Like, just weigh it all out, make sure everything looks good, and try to stuff it into a little capsule. They've got these little 25 capsule thing that you just kind of push the powder into with a little spatula, and then you place each one on top of that, and try to connect those capsules and do all this stuff. That's your best method. Now, follow the rules. Don't do stupid stuff. Don't pack them full, 100% full of caffeine. We're not endorsing any of that. We're just saying, if you really want to see if something, you've got an idea, that's probably the best way and the cheapest way to kind of get a feel for what you really want to put out there. And then go to a manufacturer and say, hey, I've done this. And we have these happen all the time.
Yeah.
Where people come to us and they've said, I've been experimenting and I've got this really cool idea and I want to see how it works on your level, not my home kitchen version. Right? Literally, KitchenAid mixer.
Yeah.
And and it's like, here we go. And they're stuffing it. And yeah.
Something that might be even easier than doing that, find a product that's similar to what you want.
Yes.
Start taking that and add the whatever it is that you want.
Yeah, I told you the story earlier today, right? We used to make a product. Stephanie, remember?
Yes.
So years ago, we formulated this product kind of randomly. Every once in a while, they get bored in the lab and they come up with something fun. And so we wanted to try this particular ingredient. So we made a little cocktail. It was an energy product. And my wife loved it. And we made a small batch and it was awesome. Well, we've never made it since. And she keeps swearing you've got to make that again. So I just got on Amazon and I found all the 5 individual ingredients and I bought them all individually. And now she just makes her own little cocktail and we don't have to go put it through production, right? So it's 5 different brands, a capsule of the single ingredient of this, a capsule of the single ingredient of that, and you just put them all together and do your own thing. That's probably the safest way to do that with trusted brands to really see the effect. And you want people to reorder. So make sure you get them a really efficacious product. Don't just try to throw something out there because it's got a couple of really trendy buzzwords for, it's got magnesium glycinate in it, but it's only got 5 milligrams. It doesn't do anything, but it looked good on the label. And you're trying to put good doses in there, play around with it on your side to make sure, wow, I've created this version that's awesome. And then go and put it all together into one particular product and then go out there and do your thing.
All right, Mark, we're coming to the end of the show. Could you give us a summary of basically what we spoke about and maybe any additional advice you have on MOQs?
On MOQs. So it's important. We talked about it's important to know what your MOQ is and why. I keep coming back to something in my mind, so I'm just going to share it. Why is that your MOQ in your mind? Why do you feel that that's your number? Is it because you don't have a lot of confidence in it, so you're kind of I'm going to go in with 500. That way I don't break my bank. So I guess, is it financial? Is it your confidence level? What is defining what you feel like your MOQ is going to be? You're also up against expiration dates. So we recognize that where if you are the first year is going to be a slow grind. And if I take on 2,500 units and I only sell 1,000, I have to throw away 1,500. Well, it's a good tax write-off.
Or give them away. Start
samples.
giving them away early. Yeah, give them out to people.
Yeah, just hand them out. That actually, so many brands do that when they get started. They'll say it's get your free bottle and they just charge you for shipping and handling. But the shipping and handling is enough to cover the shipping and the cost of the bottle. So they don't lose any money, but they get the product in hands of people to try it. So that's one way to get the product.
We actually had a customer not too long, right at the beginning of the year, and that was one of the things they had mentioned was a quarter of what they had made was already planned for giving out free to people. They were giving that out.
Yeah, that's a great strategy. Yeah. If you've got it speeds things up. In the right at the first, it's probably a little painful because you're we could be selling that for a retail price, but you've just got to find a way to get it in people's hands, especially if you have a great product.
Yeah.
They'll reorder. It's going to be awesome. I would agree with the concept of saying know your MOQ and be true to that for the most part. We often get where we come back and we'll say, your number is probably lower than what we can really give you a good price at. So then all of a sudden their MOQ went from 500 bottles and you're saying, well, ours is 2,500 is the minimum. And they're like, well, we could do that. Well, then lead with that, right? Because ultimately we think, why did you all of a sudden agree to 5 times what you told us originally, right? So it's I think probably just to get a price, right? Just to know what that is. And we get that.
I don't think it hurts either for a company that's just especially for a startup.
Yeah.
They're trying to find out the feasibility of doing a product. If all you want is a price, I think a manufacturer appreciates you coming and saying, I just need a price. Is there any way you could give me a quote? It takes about 10 hours, man hours on average to put together. Yeah, depending on the formula, to put together a quote.
Right.
If somebody comes to us and they just want
Wouldn't that be a cool business model? Or part of our business is just be honest. Tell us exactly what you want. There's no fun and games here. Yeah. Just come to us straight and say, I need to know my MOQ. I'm at a super early phase of considering this, but I need to know price and I need to know this and I need that. That would sure be refreshing on both sides instead of doing the dance. just to get a price quote, right? That feels relationshipable. Is that a
Yes.
word?
Yeah.
Right? It feels like, hey, we're now friends. We're having a really open dialogue, and you're telling us exactly where you are instead of us getting really excited and thinking, oh, new customer. And you're thinking, oh, man, I'm kind of misleading these guys. I'm not really ready to pull the trigger on this for maybe like 6 months to a year if all the numbers add up, right?
Yeah.
That would be really refreshing. You could almost probably start your own side hustle, like as just quoting products to give people an idea. If you just want a ballpark estimate, like we can probably look at something in about 30 minutes, tell you like, it's going to be $6 to $8.
Yeah.
Right? Like
It might even be a little wider than that. You're looking between $6 to $15. We can.
that really helps, right? You're like, I want to buy a new car. Well, come on down to Lexus. It's like, oh, it's $40,000 to $150,000. You're like, okay, I'll start saving up. Like that doesn't. I don't know. I love the idea, but I don't know that helps. So we also talked. We may not have actually talked about this. The risk of like knowing a lower MOQ manufacturer. It could be all above board and an amazing experience. Some companies are really big and they carry a large catalog, Rolodex, whatever you want to call it, of raw materials. And they may have everything you need really quickly and can do it at a lower MOQ. And that's awesome. One thing to look for is just like if they're GMP certified or if they're GMP compliant and all those things. If they're certified, it's awesome. You should be able to trust everything that they do because they're third-party audited. So you should be getting a quality product every time. If they're GMP compliant, you're kind of taking their word for it, you know.
Yeah.
It's like, oh,
I promise.
yeah, you got a handshake and were your fingers crossed during that handshake? Like, yeah. So you just got to be careful and know what to look for when you're looking at a manufacturer that offers lower MOQs. Some are probably fairly well intended, where they're just like, you know what, we're not going to make anything on this first order, but that's kind of our foot in the door with these new companies, where others are. You just might want to check out their facility on Google Maps. Like, I don't know.
We recently had a meeting with a customer who we let them know we just can't meet your MOQ goals. They found a company that they were able to work with at those lower MOQs, then came back to us after they had sold their product for a year and really tested it and done really well. Found out that the product they thought they were selling, they were not selling. It was missing the potency of the ingredients that they thought they were selling.
The customer didn't have
the
know
knowledge.
the right questions to ask, and it should have been an opportunity for the manufacturer to say,
yes.
let me ask you specifically, do you mean this or do you mean this as far as like elemental mineral content? And they just assumed that they meant powder, which the customer didn't know that it wasn't elemental, magnesium or whatever it is. And they just gave them a lower quality product, and the customer thought it was a higher quality product. And that's a hard conversation to have.
Yeah.
And you lose trust.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, I don't think the manufacturer is being
No.
facetious or anything at all.
No.
They found a way to make that lower MOQ that the customer wanted, but didn't explain why they were able to hit that lower MOQ. If you aren't ready for a custom formula product, can you build your brand with a private label product?
Sure. Yeah, it's not going to be exactly what you want, but it's a cheaper starting point to get in a category. And it's not unique to your brand, right? There's brands out there that sell 50 to 100 different products, and they got 50 to 100 different brands that are putting their label on that product, and it's not yours, but they'll sell you 200 bottles at a time, and it's pretty close to what you wanted. Maybe it's missing an ingredient or two, and you just are testing the waters. It's not a terrible way to go. If you get some traction, you can come out with a custom one that's new and improved, and it's got all the stuff that you really want because you've been able to test it. I don't love that idea because it feels like, hey, I gave you a really product, and now you get a good one. Sorry.
Yeah.
Edit that. I gave you a really crappy product.
Thank you guys for joining us today. But before you go, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to be notified when new shows are posted. Also, put your questions in the comments or email us at info@canyonsidelabs.com.
So tune in next show when we talk about private label versus custom formulas. So our in there was pretty good lead in to what it's going to be next time, right? So
Like it was meant to be.
perfection. All right. Ciao for now.
See you guys.
See ya.